This is Lions Uncaged on talkSPORT 2. I'm your host, Alfie Reynolds, and we are just 72 hours away from the Lions' opening test match against the Wallabies. I am delighted to be in Brisbane, and alongside me today on the show is none other than the former London Irish and England winger, Topsy Ojo. Topsy, how are you? I'm getting so excited. I cannot wait for the next few days in terms of build-up, and then, of course, that match on Saturday.
Yeah, Alfie, I'm really good. And I'm right there with you in kind of that sentiment, those emotions. Look, we've been building up to this for weeks now. Weeks and game after game, city after city. More for you than me. I've been in the same city, but waiting patiently for the weekend to arrive. Waiting for the team to be announced as well. So even all the excitement we've had up till now, the next 72 hours, yeah, it's going to go through the roof. Can't wait.
Before I get to how you used to feel the night before a big selection, or that you were going to find out whether you were in the team or not, some news from out here in Australia today. The Telegraph are reporting that the team selection is going to have Ty Burn at 6, Tom Curry at 7, and Marcus Smith on the bench. No Owen Farrell on the bench. We're going to speak a lot about selection on this show, but what's your reaction to that?
Brave. Some with breaking news. Maybe they've had a little camera hidden somewhere, either at the training ground or in the team meeting. They're not selections that completely surprise me. In fact, actually, I think pre-tour, Ty Burn would have been in most people's test match 15s. Marcus Smith would have been that 10 fullback cover with his versatility. And, you know, I think the others as well. There's no surprises if that's the way he goes. But I think with the way that the tour has played out, those aren't necessarily givens. You know, the whole Owen Farrell conversation. I think Ty Burn's had huge competition, second row, back row. So, yeah, we'll get official news in the next 24 hours. But if he goes that way, again, we have to trust Andy Farrell that he's the man in charge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the fallout to any squad selection, it gets people talking and people have their opinions, and it'll be, why is so-and-so not playing? So I kind of love all that element, but I agree with you. I would be a little surprised if it's Burn and Tom Curry, but we'll find out tomorrow. Less of a surprise that Owen Farrell isn't involved. Look, Topsy, you played the game at the highest level. Can I take you back into what it was like waiting for a squad to be announced? Were you someone that was particularly nervous the night before? Were you able to stay quite relaxed?
Normally, I am very relaxed, very chilled, very down to earth. But I think selection is the one thing that makes any player the most nervous, because it's completely out of your hands. You could have had the best training week, had the best match previously, but ultimately it's down to those coaches sat in a room going over the depth chart saying, right, who should play in this position, that position, and who should be on the bench. So you just have to sit there and wait. And it's an anxious wait. I mean, in most circumstances, you would have found out on the Tuesday, because you tend to do your main session then ahead of the Saturday, so you want the team to have the best preparation. But if that's delayed to the Wednesday, the coaches are chopping and changing the reps in training, so you don't quite know where you stand, man. It's nervous, really nervous, anxious, and all you want is for your name to be read out. And when it is, it's the best feeling in the world. When it's not, it's crushing. You have that kind of internal crushing moment for a couple of seconds. Then you have to be a good teammate and congratulate the guys who've selected. Andy Farrell will then probably say, right, boys who haven't been, be disappointed, but you've got a role to play. So all sorts of emotions in the space of one team meeting. Can be the best, of course, when your name is read out, and that's what the players are striving for. So, yeah, it's going to be good and bad times for a lot of that squad.
And I suppose what Andy Farrell will say is, on any Lions tour, the team that starts the first test is very rarely the team that starts the third test. There will be movement here. There will be players that might get injured. There will be players that will come in. So the guys still in the squad that are going to be absolutely gutted, they absolutely still have a role to play, as you say. Can you remember any particularly awkward team rooms after some squad selections? Or did you always play in teams where people generally kind of got on fairly well?
For the most part, but you know that there will always splinter groups, or your Sappuccino groups, as they used to be. They would be the guys that would take themselves off for a coffee. Normally, they're either on the bench or not involved, and you just know, like, they're chirping away, venting away. Which I mean, it's normal. It's a normal human reaction, isn't it? Like I say, everybody wants to play and be selected, and when you're not, particularly, I think in this case, when by and large everybody has put their best foot forward, everyone's in contention to be selected. When you're not, man, it is crushing. So, yeah, look out for those splinter groups going off, having coffees on their own, especially if it's 3 or 4 who haven't been picked.
There's no way that you were a Sappuccino, Topsy, though.
Well, I always got picked, so, you know. It was
yeah, exactly my point. Did you ever have any, just out of interest, because we're going to hear from Ben Youngs in a sec, did you ever have any that stick in your mind as like a really gutting selection which actually didn't go your way?
Yeah, funnily enough, my debut, so I made my debut for London Irish, was actually a late call-up into the squad, came off the bench, scored. You think, right, amazing, young kid, this is what you want to do, I'm going to be involved going forwards from now on. I didn't even make the 23 the next week.
And really?
Yeah, couldn't make any sense of it. You're like, yeah, even to now, like I couldn't put a finger on why. I mean, obviously, I think coach at the time, you know, he had his vision in mind and what he wanted to do. But yeah, that's one that sticks with me, like absolutely gutting. Like, yeah, made my debut, scored, amazing. Next week, oh, not involved. Thanks.
Just keeping you humble, Topsy. So you're still thinking about it all these years later.
That's it, you know. Yeah, you kind of leave it in the coach's hand and maybe trust what they're doing. But in that point, I was like, no, get me out of here. What is this?
Topsy, we spoke about it already because the Telegraph are reporting that Owen Farrell isn't going to be involved. Personally, I don't think that is too controversial. I think we see Owen Farrell in this test series, by the way, but the fact that he potentially hasn't made the squad for the first test, I don't think it's too much of a surprise, is it?
No, it's not. And I think we've talked about this on previous shows. Yes, it's great having his experience in there, but actually the other guys were ahead of him in the pecking order, and he's not done enough in one performance to warrant jumping over those two. Now, we also said, of course, that I expect him to feature in the tests. Could be the second, could be the third, because particularly in that 12 position, he does give you another option if you want a ball playing 12 to give the 10 a second set of eyes and to help with managing the team. So I don't see that not happening further down the stretch. But for the first test, no. You know, I think Finn Russell and Finn Smith deserve to be those two first choice 10s. Either Bundy Aki or Sione Tuipulotu will be the 12. And then it does come down to the bench options. You know, if Andy Farrell, son and dad, if Andy wants to go like for like, does he find a way to have both Bundy and Sione in the squad? And then does he look at the game afterwards and go, you know what, that didn't quite work. I do need something different at 12. That's when Owen comes into the conversation.
You are listening to Lions Uncaged here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Alfie Reynolds. You just heard some of the most iconic Lions speeches from years gone by, including the current head coach Andy Farrell, the former captain Paul O'Connell, and two of the most important figures in Lions history, Sir Ian McGeechan and his assistant Jim Telfer. If that doesn't get you going for Saturday, then I don't know what will. You're in the wrong place. But the Lions will need someone to stir them up to victory this Saturday. And there's no better place to follow all of the Lions action than right here on talkSPORT as we bring you exclusive commentary from the opening test between the Lions and the Wallabies. Our coverage starts at 10 and kickoff is at 11. You do not want to miss it. Topsy, they're great moments, aren't they? It's through the very fabric of a Lions tour. You have some of those voices and some of those speeches. Every time you hear them, it never gets old. Brilliant moments.
They are. The best part of any Lions documentary, any rugby documentary, really, because you get taken into the inner sanctum, into the changing room right before the players are about to run out. The last words that the captain or the senior players will speak before you run out, and it's no cliche. It's kind of hairs on the back of your neck type stuff. It is, right, we're about to go to war. You look into your left and your right and you're in the huddle and you're seeing your friends, not just your teammates, your friends, your mates that you're going to go to battle with, you're going to bleed with, you're going to get injured for, you're going to give everything for the common good to make sure that you get over the line. And yeah, there's no better place to be honest. It is it's incredible actually. And actually as we're speaking about it, like, you know, I've been in so many different changing rooms, the memories come flooding back of that moment where you know it's time to go to work, and yeah, it's special.
What's the best speech you ever had from coach or captain?
I tell you one of my coaches who just used to give incredible speeches was Toby Booth. Oh
yeah,
he was just such an incredible emotional guy. Not one particular one jumps out right now, but he just had a way of connecting to the point where you would literally run in front of a car for the guy, like that sort of thing. It meant so much to him, and I guess obviously he'd brought a young group of us through at London Irish, took us into the first team, so you could kind of see how much it meant to him as well. Captain Bob Casey, former Ireland locked as well. He was another pretty emotional guy who would, just they care, that genuine care, that passion about what you're meant to go out and do. And then also I remember when I first was selected for England, the phone call from Martin Johnson, which was, again, it's a phone call, so he's not revving you to go out and play, but it is, look, you go out and do what you've been doing all season long. We've been watching you from the run-up to the Premiership semi-finals, to the Heineken semi-final against Toulouse and all of that. It's you go out and do what you've been doing, and then you put the phone down and you're like, that guy won a World Cup. And he's just rang me. And I'm in my car on the way to training. So, a good speech is worth its weight in gold. And whether that's from the coach initially to then the captain on the day of the match and the senior players around him, that is where you set your stall out. You set the intent for what's about to come, and you get the guys ready for battle.
It's those coaches, isn't it, that kind of get the emotional temperature of the team, I suppose. It's always the thing that strikes me about the famous Ian McGeechan speech or Jim Telfer there, "This is your Everest." It just resonates in that moment. It's perfect. I love hearing those moments. We've got to move on now, though. Everyone is trying to predict the starting 15, not just this week, by the way. I think we've been doing this for basically the last 7 months, certainly since the turn of the year, including a lot of top pundits. Tops, we wanted to run through of them and kind of break them down, get your thoughts on it. Should we start with Ronan O'Gara, the former fly half, current La Rochelle head coach? So he's selected his squad and he's chosen to bench, this is amazing to me, he's chosen to bench Dan Sheehan, Andrew Porter and Tyg Furlong. He has Ronan Kelleher, Ellis Genge and Will Stewart starting because he wants those guys I mentioned that he's benched to come on in the final 20 minutes. Topsy, that's a bold call, isn't it?
Very bold, but then that's Ronan O'Gara for you. It's he's definitely a coach that thinks outside of the box. It's a difficult one to sell to the players, especially when there's only 3 test matches. Saying, look, you are my first choice, but I'm actually going to bench you because I want you to finish the game strong. Not for me. I would, especially in this instance, prefer to set the tone, to put your best players out there and say, boys, you go and do the job for 50, 60 minutes. We are a strong enough group that the guys coming on are as good. We're not going to lose any intensity or pressure in that regard. So start with your best guys, but that is definitely a tactic that you see a lot, especially in club rugby, because I think you can, where you know definitively you're going to get stronger at the back end, you might see an opposition and go, they're not as good as us across the stretch. So yeah, we will rest some starters and bring them on later.
Well, we saw Leinster do it with Andrew Porter, name him on the bench for a bit, didn't we? But then they would bring him on after 20 minutes, so almost substituting so that he missed the first 20 of the game rather than the last 20. I actually think there's been more movement with the props on this tour than I was expecting. I think Ellis Genge could start on form rather than Porter. I personally would still go with Porter, but you wouldn't be shocked if it was Genge. Furlong is having to try and prove his fitness, so therefore if it was Will Stewart, again, it wouldn't be a huge surprise. But yeah, I think Dan Sheehan is an absolute lock to start the game. He is one of the first names on the team sheet, so certainly wouldn't be benching him. Let's move on though. Ugo Monye. So he's dropped James Lowe on the wing. So he's gone with Tommy Freeman and Mac Hansen. Now we now know that Mac Hansen is possibly out. We think he's got some sort of knock and an injury that could have ruled him out of the first test, which means you would expect it's James Lowe and Tommy Freeman. But Topsy, I can kind of see what Ugo was probably predicting here, because based upon form, there's a pretty compelling case that actually Freeman and Hansen have been the 2 form wingers on the tour.
Yeah, they've been really busy actually. Particularly the last game, I thought Mac Hansen was exceptional. He was everywhere. He was so involved. He was off his wing. He was on his wing. He was getting second touches. He was getting offloads away. And kind of that high involvement, that work rate is what you want to see. And I think between him and James Lowe, he's probably been the cleaner of the 2 wingers as well. I know James Lowe had that moment, the game's gone, but where he should have scored. And
again in Canberra,
Yeah. So just instances like that where you go, James Lowe should score that. I think the thinking with, I guess, myself and a lot of the other pundits is that he just gives Andy Farrell a bit of security in that left wing, particularly with his kicking game. And I guess he's probably got a bank of credit with Andy Farrell as well, in that I think James Lowe is the best of the wingers we've got for that left side. So I would have loved to have seen Matt Canton out there, but I think again with the news of the injury as well, I think it is going to be James Lowe. But we'll see some movement between second and third test, I'm sure.
Yeah, I also think that tactically James Lowe in the Irish system's so key, isn't he? And I think Andy Farrell will want to use him. But on form, I agree. I don't think we've seen anywhere near the best of James Lowe. On to our very own Ben Kay. He has decided to mix up his centres. There's a lot of talk of do they go for the Scotland pair now, particularly with Gary Ringrose being out. But he's gone Bundy Aki alongside Hugh Jones. I'm going to be honest. I'm totally with Ben on this one. I would go with Bundy Aki and Hugh Jones as my centres as well.
Would you? Interesting.
I would. You know what? Because I feel like Tuipulotu's been okay. He's had some nice moments, and obviously there's the club-country partnership, which is a very good reason to go with him and Hugh Jones. I just think the Lions are going to play quite direct, and I think if that is your game plan, I think Bundy Aki is better at that than Tuipulotu. I think Tuipulotu's a more all-round inside centre, but if it's Bundy, we're giving you the ball and you get us over the gain line, I think he can do that better. So therefore, that's why I would go with him at 12. But what do you reckon?
You know what, mate? You make a very good argument, one that I can't go against. I mean, I guess pre-tour, I think I went with the Scottish pair. I think Aki has been the better 12. Almost feel like now the Lions have made a bit of a rod for themselves in terms of the last week or 10 days, splitting them into the Irish-Scottish combination. So actually, you get to test week, Gary Ringrose picks up an injury. Are you now going to go back and pair Bundy with Bundy with Hugh Jones? I mean, you could do it. Absolutely, you could do it and it would be fine. But you've then not given them the best preparation in terms of one of the last games. So, I don't know. I think that Gary Ringrose injury might have helped Tuipulotu's case. But I think you're right on the terms of if the Lions, and as we've seen it, they've tried to develop this expansive style of play. But when they've needed to be direct and punch holes, Bundy Aki is the man for that.
Yeah, but I think you are probably right, Topsy. I think it's more likely to be Tuipulotu, and they will go for the club-country partnership. Let's finish off with Sam Warburton. His back row is gone Ollie Chesham at 6, Jack Morgan at 7, Ben Earl at 8. No Jack Conan in the number 8 shirt.
Well, Ben Earl was my original 8 pick, and I just felt that Conan forced his way in. To the point where actually we haven't touched on the bench as much, but I think Ben Earl goes on the bench. Jack Morgan is he's looking after his Welsh mate, isn't he? Because can't have a test team
100%
with no Welshman in it. But again, I think he has massively played his way into the conversation. And I guess if you look at the way the Sevens have performed, I think Jack has had more of the eye-catching performances in terms of those kind of moments where you go, oh wow, there's a big tackle, there's a big turnover. I think the other two have maybe been a bit more industrious. Van der Fleer's come off the bench a lot, which, again, is that... What do you read into that? Is it Andy thinks he's a bench man and he's going to be one of the other back rowers on the bench? Or is it, look, I see the other two ahead of you as starters? We just don't know. But if Jack Morgan ends up starting, I don't think anyone would complain because he has put his hand up. He's been immense on this tour. And is there a bit of sentiment where you want at least one Welshman in the 23? Maybe there is.
I don't think that's going to come into Andy Farrell's selection. Though. If we know anything about Andy Farrell, he is picking that team to win that first test. The thing with the Sevens is there's going to be a couple of absolutely class operators that miss out here. And you could easily put them in, but you have to select someone else instead. So, yeah, it's absolutely brutal, isn't it, in terms of the open side. Well, we all know that the Lions is huge for us on this side of the world, but it's absolutely huge, make no mistake about it, for Australian rugby too. This is Lions Uncaged. I'm Alfie Reynolds, and I'm joined by the former England winger, Topsy Ojo. Topsy, massive tour this, just from a rugby point of view. Of course it is, it's a Lions tour. Massive tour as well, though, for Australian rugby, isn't it? And the demise of Australian rugby that we've seen, the popularity of the NRL... and the AFL. I mean, this is massive, isn't it, for this sport, which we love in this country?
It's huge. It's the start of a really big couple of years for Australian rugby in terms of off the back of this, they have the World Cup in 2 years' time. They need to use this opportunity to rebuild what rugby union is in Australia. And that's from the grassroots right the very way up to club level and then beyond to the Wallabies level. So there's huge pressure on the squad, and as much as they don't need any more pressure piled on their back, this is where they are at the minute. And, it's something we kind of almost see with Wales a minute as well, in terms of a rebuild needs to start. You need to reignite the passion for rugby in your country. So there's no getting away from it. This is a huge test series. It's a wonderful opportunity for Australia, particularly as they have been written off. And you see so many wonderful stories come out of the back of that underdog mentality, right? Nobody actually thinks we've got a chance, we've got a prayer. Let's show them what we're about. Let's show them some Australian grit, some resolve. Let's put ourselves back on the world stage as one of the highest operators. And let's use that feel-good factor to rebuild a legacy going forward, so that kids go, oh yeah, I do want to play rugby union. I don't so much want to go to league and AFL and cricket and all the other sports that they're competing with. Rugby union is the sport to be involved with. So what a wonderful opportunity. And this group of Wallabies that are going to take on the Lions, yes, their responsibility to carry the torch.
Yeah, they have to capitalise on it. They absolutely have to capitalise on it. And it is starting to build here in Brisbane. There's a fan park just right outside the hotel, actually, here, Topsy, which isn't too busy yet, but I think it's starting to build. I was speaking to a Lions fan, actually, in Adelaide when I was flying here to Brisbane, and they were going up to Cairns. So I think a lot of the Lions fans kind of go travelling elsewhere, and then they're going to fly back in to Brisbane probably tomorrow on Thursday for the Test series. So I think it's going to hit a day where all of a sudden it's going to be like, whoa, the Lions have arrived. How important, Topsy, is Will Skelton to the Wallabies?
He is, I was almost going to go as far as to say, if he doesn't perform and play well, the chances of the Wallabies winning go down quite a lot. I almost want to say he's that important to them.
I agree with that.
And yeah, I know they've kind of learned to operate without him, but obviously we saw in the 23 World Cup when he was missing that he had so much in terms of physical presence, into scrum and line out, ball carrying capability. If we look at where some of the Australian super sides have got stuck into the Lions, it's by being direct, going at the heart of them. And what better man than Will Skelton? And obviously, again, talking about relationships from back in England, Will Skelton and Maro Itoje would have played together for many, many years. And, I remember Will saying he credits Saracens with getting him physically into a shape where he could play his best rugby before then going on to La Rochelle and winning a couple of Champions Cups. So, incredible athlete, incredible player. Someone who played against the Lions 12 years ago as well, so gets a chance to do it properly this time, I guess. And he's going to be huge for Australia. They really need him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think I'd go further as well. I think there are a handful of players in this Wallabies team, Will Skelton being one of them, Angus Bell being another, Joseph Sualihi being another, that if they don't impact the Test series in the way in which they're capable of, they won't win the Test series. Whereas the Lions have players like, for example, I don't know, a Joe McCarthy in the second row. You could bring Ollie Chesham in, or all various areas of the Lions team. They have other really strong players to come in. The Wallabies don't have players that are able to impact the game in the way I think those three guys are. They have to have a big game, and Will Skelton at his best is arguably the most impactful second row in the world. Now, Joseph Sualihi took the game by storm in his first match for the Wallabies. That was their win against England last autumn at Twickenham. He was playing at centre. We expect him to play centre in this series, but the former All Black scrum half, the legendary Justin Marshall, has said on the Good Bad Rugby Australia New Zealand that he would like to see the centre moved in the back line. So Justin Marshall chatting there, Topsy, suggesting that you move Sualihi into the back three because of the aerial game. I think you can kind of see the logic of what he's saying. Personally, I'd keep him at 13 and the way he can impact the game in the midfield. But what do you reckon? It makes sense in a way.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you know what Justin is saying in terms of, right, let's give him a bit more space to operate in. But I'd say that's for another time. I don't think that's not his natural position. Yes, Fiji would have targeted him and said, right, let's close down his time and space. But that's kind of the mantle that comes with being a dangerous, exciting player. So, I would like to see the Wallabies leave him at centre, but get creative in how you use him. For example, let him carry off first phase, then bounce him to a wing and try and kick to him third, fourth or fifth phase when he's maybe got a mismatch against something else, just to give you a quick example. So, the best players have a target put on them, but actually they love that. And actually, if he's being targeted by 2 or 3 players, he's hopefully creating space for someone else elsewhere. So that's a problem for Australia to figure out. I'd imagine Joe Schmidt will have some ideas about how they best do that, but ultimately he is a 13. That's how he's come into the sport, so let him shine as a 13 and let's get the best out of him in that position.
We're going to go to break, Topsy, as well, but one of the other reasons I would keep Suolihi at 13 is because, going back to our conversation about the Lions midfield, if it is Tuipulotu, those two had a bit of a run into one another at Murrayfield.
Yes, they did.
That's a nice little rivalry.
Yep, not one that Tuipulotu remembers very fondly, so he'll be up for revenge.
No.
But for Suolihi, he's like, yeah, bring it on. Let's have some more of that.
Yeah, he was asked about that, by the way, on Monday here in Brisbane when Will Skelton and Suolihi were put up for media, and he sidestepped the question pretty nicely. But I think those people that have tried to lip read saw him saying, "I'll see you next year," to Tuipulotu was kind of trash talking him in that game. So let's hope that'd be blockbuster. That'd be absolute fireworks. Now, Topsy, to finish off the show, a little bit of fun for you. We want you to pick a combined 15, Australia and the Lions. The Wallabies have been in a tough place. At any Australians, how many are going to get into the team? How tough has this been, Topsy? Or is this straightforward for you?
No, man, this has been difficult. Because I mean, let's be real. Australian rugby has a lot of work to do. But that being said, I've been generous. I want to try and play fair and combine the two teams. So I've put 5 Wallabies in the team.
Interesting.
A couple are just more things that I would like to see happen more than anything. But
rather than reality. I was just trying to think myself. So I haven't done a 15, but I was just trying to think and quickly go through. I reckon I'm at 4 or 5 as well. So I'll tell you what, let's get into it. Should we start off in the front row? Who have you got in your front row?
In the front row, I've got Ellis Genge, Dan Sheehan, and Taniela Tupou.
Interesting.
So that's kind of my my personal one. I know he's not Australia's form tight head at the minute, but I think in a combined 15, you could have a lot of fun. That's a lot of weight in the scrum and line out. And no, go on.
No, well, I was going to say I had one in the front row, but it would be Angus Bell. I wasn't necessarily expecting two, but Tupou at his best, 100% in the conversation. I'm just not sure he's quite there at the moment. But.
Not at the moment, no. But like you say, at his best, I think you could have a lot of fun with it. So just say to him, we just need you to empty the tank for 50 minutes, do a bit of run it straight. We will tee you up off pods and just go and cause havoc until you literally can't walk, and then we'll drag you off. I think you could have a lot of fun with that. Second row, I've got Marrow with Will Skelton.
Yeah, agreed.
Again, a partnership that know each other very, very well. I think, those two would combine very well. My back row is Tom Curry. It's Ollie Chesham. And it is, at number 8, Rob Valentini.
Yeah. I was wondering if you'd go. I was thinking Valentini as well. So we're not too far off. I think Skelton's a lock in the second row. Like he would definitely get into the Lions team. And I agree. I think Valentini is a class operator. And so, Jack Conan, a really good player, Ben Earl, a good player, but it doesn't feel like the Lions have an absolutely top quality number 8 on this tour. So I think Valentini would get in. I agree.
Yeah, he would add a lot of punch in that back row. And, again, you're not losing anything. Like, he's a classy operator. And another person, actually, that the Wallabies desperately need for this series. Moving into the backs, my other curveball, it's at scrum half. It's Nick White.
Oh, Nick White. He might not even start for the Wallabies.
I know, but again, I just obviously having seen him over here with the Exeter Chiefs, and I think he will start maybe. He's a classy operator. I think somebody that could go into a combined 15 and just keep things ticking over. He's got a good running game. He kicks very well. Great mo on him as well, like that moustache. I'm hoping he does something special for the series. But he is my scrum half with Finn Russell at 10.
Okay, well, I've got to I think that is more of a left field shout for me, Topsy.
Yes,
go on, I'll let you crack on. Go on the centre. Go on to the centres.
Centres, the best of frenemies, Tuipulotu and Suolihi.
Okay, yeah.
Coming in together, and then back 3, I have actually taken a leaf out of Ugo's book. I have gone Mac Hansen, Tommy Freeman, and Blair Kinghorn.
Yeah, okay, so Blair Kinghorn's obviously a maybe. That's interesting. I've got to say, just on behalf of our Irish listeners, the no Gibson Park at 9. and Nick White in his place, I think that's gonna ruffle a few feathers.
I'm trying to be fair, I'm spreading a bit of the love, but come on. I had 5 spots.
Yeah.
It could have been 4, but yeah, go on. We'll let Nick White play a half.
I wondered whether it was possibly fullback that we might have seen a Wallaby selected. But yeah, I think I'd have had Suolihi, I'd have had Skelton, I'd have had Valentini, slight change in our front rows. Maybe I'd have shifted someone into the back 3. But it does go to show, Topsy, that Australia have got some weapons, haven't they? If even with the combined might of Ireland and Britain, there's still a number of players that would get into that team. They've got some dangers there for sure.
Yeah, they've got some really good players, and look, this is going to be a punchy test series. I mean, even in the centres, Hunter Paisami, who's played against the Lions already, was very, very good. Lenny Kitao had a brilliant autumn international series over on these shores, and you mentioned the back 3. I could flip a coin for Tom Wright and Blair Kinghorn. I think Tom Wright is a classy operator at fullback and gives Australia some real depth there, great counter-attacking ability as well. So yeah, tough for the Wallabies to break into the 15 at the minute, but you just list some of the names off and you go, actually, if they click, as we hope that they do, they could really shake up this test series.
Yeah, well, I think producer Ollie back in the studio would have Ben White over Nick White. He's saying he'd also have Ewan Ashman starting at hooker, though, so I wouldn't listen to him. Wow. I wouldn't listen to what he's saying. I might be pulling his leg on that one. Look, Topsy, it's been a pleasure. We're running out of time. But it will be the team announced on Thursday, and I suppose we will be back together to look back on the first test later on the weekend.
Yeah, we will, mate. Looking forward to a really good debrief. We'll have seen the first test. We'll know who's won up in the series, unless it's another draw.
Quick prediction, Topsy. Quick prediction for you.
I think the Lions take this one, but it goes to the wire for sure.
I think the best thing for this series is Australia win the first test. That's honestly what I'm hoping for, because it sets us up so well. So do you know what? It's partly heart over head, but I'm going to go with the Wallabies winning this first test in Brisbane. I think that would be blockbuster for the 2025 Lions. Don't forget, talkSPORT is your home of Lions rugby, and we are bringing you commentary of every single game, and that includes Saturday. 10 a.m. our build-up will start on talkSPORT. The kickoff is at 11. Make sure you do not miss out. This has been Lions Uncaged on talkSPORT 2.